Welcome back and welcome. Happy to have you here. I'm Lori at Positive Thanks Living. This is an altered book video from start to finish. And first we're going to talk about the cover. I wanted to add some of this napkin to the front of the cover. And first I wanted to get rid of the stuff I didn't want to use. So this water pen works so well with it. I'm just drawing where I want to tear, and because it's a paper napkin, the water weakens the structure so that I'm able to pull apart the part that I don't want. And then I take off the layers. Now this napkin only has 2 layers, so obviously removing the bottom, and it's kind of a little tough to remove, but it's okay. You just go slow. You're going to see me put it on the cover in a unique way, at least unique for me. I learned it from YouTube, of course, where else, but not in the junk journaling sphere. So it's going to surprise you when you see how I put it on the cover. And I'll explain a little later in the video about how I do that. Yep, removing the 2 layers. It's oddly satisfying when you can finally do it. I learned 3 things in this adventure of making this next altered book. A big part of it is tearing out pages. You can't use the whole book because otherwise it would become like an alligator mouth. So removing the pages is a big part, and you need to plan what you're going to do. I learned a lot from other YouTubers, junk journalers, and in particular I'm going to link below to Barbara at 49 Dragonflies. She has a series of 6 videos altering a book similar to the way I did it. But yeah, the link is below. The first thing that I learned was you've got to plan. You must plan. You can't just go willy-nilly tearing out pages. You can see where I have things that are paper clipped. What I did was I started at the middle and I would paper clip 3 and 8 and 3 and 8. The paper clips at the bottom are 8 pages. The paper clips at the top are 3. And it was the 8 pages ones that I would tear out. And that was throughout the whole book. And tearing them out, they're not a sewn in signature, it's glued in. So it didn't really matter that I was too careful how I tore, because as you're going to see later on, I cover up the areas that are torn. I invite you to like this video. That really helps. I'm just so thrilled to have anybody watching, and you're very welcome here. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. I'd love to share what I'm learning. So I'm busy tearing. That's my first job, but it's the planning beforehand that makes the tearing work out. It's not scientific. It's not, yeah. It's just planning ahead of what you're going to do. So here, I'm showing you that it's the middle that will be together, 3 pages. And then I carry on, tearing more and more and more out. You're going to see the number of pages that end up being torn out at the end, and there are a lot. Now this is a Reader's Digest condensed book, so I don't feel too badly, because if someone wants to read the full stories, they're out there. They're in the public domain, the full story. So now I've finished tearing. All my paper clips on the bottom are gone, and I'm going to start folding pages. What you're looking at now is just how much I've removed. Yep, those are all the pages that I removed. So the first thing I learned was to plan ahead. Now I'm going to show you in a very not so clear way of how I decided that how I would position the papers, folding them to become pockets so I can put different tags in. This will eventually become a gratitude journal. It's October as I'm filming this, and in Canada we celebrate the Canadian Thanksgiving the beginning of October, and of course in the US we celebrate Thanksgiving in November. And because our roots are Canadian, we celebrate both. And we live in the United States, so yeah, that's why we celebrate both. So I'm showing you now that I fold in two different fashions. Now there's many ways to fold, but I've chosen to be really simple. And you'll see later on when I show you that when I decorate, I'm doing pockets that are the corner one you just saw me tuck in, and the end one. I have a few things that I've pulled together, things that I have been saving. And so that's the second thing I learned. I learned that you need to use up what you have. And an altered book made into a journal is the perfect way to use up what you have around. Yep, still folding. So side tuck pockets. And in a little bit, you're going to see how I glue them together. And there's a little bit of a trick to that so that they don't buckle. Or at least they don't buckle as much. I'm making sure that as I fold, I'm enclosing the ripped edges, the ripped pages, so you'll never see that portion. The 3 pages that I leave intact in the book become the pages that remain, and they're folded. Barbara does at 49 Dragonflies. Again, the link is below to her series. She goes through it much more slowly, obviously with 6 videos, but she does a really good job of showing you exactly how, if you find my demonstration here in this short video a little bit confusing. And I have to say, I watched her video a number of times, and I thought it through, and I planned, and I was still a little hesitant in many different ways. You can see I've cut out a lot of my hesitations. Yeah. And soon you're going to see me gluing the pages together. Now, if I invite you to like and subscribe, I am going to continue in this adventure of making altered books, because I have a lot of books that I've carried with us wherever we move. At one point when we moved from Canada to the US, half the weight of what we moved was in books. So I love books. And in the meantime, my mother has moved into assisted living, and I had to clean out her home. And just recently, my husband's mother, she also moved out of her home, so some of the books that I have here on my shelf, I'll probably never reread them, but neither do I want to get rid of them. So altering them into useful journals makes a way to keep the books, make them relevant and new again. I'm just showing you the different pages and how they'll go together. Yeah. Do you have books on your bookshelf that you would like to use as opposed to just have them sit there? Well, an altered book is a perfect way to do this. And I have a few other videos of altered books that I've done already. Next, I'm going to show you how I glued things together. And again, there's a little bit of a trick to this. When you glue things together, you have to decide sometimes whether you're going to glue the flap down all the way or whether you're just going to glue a side of it so you can tuck something in. And then you're gluing the edges so that it becomes a pocket. Here I'm gluing the other side. And I learned very quickly that the best way to put 2 pages together is to raise them up so that they're, I don't know what the correct term is, perpendicular, so that they're standing up as you glue them together, and there's less buckling that way. Pretty soon you're going to see my hands very close to the picture, to the recording, because that's what I did. I was raising up the 2 pages tall so that they would glue without buckling. And there was still a little bit of buckling. Perhaps if I do this many more times, I'll figure out new ways, but that's the best way I've learned. Now you can see I did a little punch there. That becomes a full page pocket. Here I am. I'm holding it up, straight up, while the sides are there on each side. Now, because there are 8 pages between these 2 that I've glued together that have been torn out, as I put them together, there's room. Now I'm going to show you this unique way that I learned. That's parchment paper. And I'm going to iron the napkin onto the cover. But here's the trick. First, you put Mod Podge down on the cover and let it dry. So there is a very thin layer of Mod Podge on that cover now. And the fact that it's there, the heat activates it. I was a little afraid that the parchment paper would stick, and you can tell that it's a little bit hard to pull off, but it didn't stick. Only the napkin stuck, and it looks so good, and it's so flat, and it was almost like a miracle. So that was the back, and I thought, oh, am I going to be able to do it on the front? You know how it is. Once you've done it once, you're hoping you're not going to mess up the second time. Now, the second time I did it a little more quickly with the iron. I didn't leave the iron on the napkin as long. And it did, the very top left at the spine, it didn't adhere completely. So I went back later. You won't see it on the film. And just ironed it again. But it was the easiest, the least painful way I've ever put down a napkin on a surface. So what you're seeing here is what I'm going to put in the journal. These are digitals that I made years ago, and they were just in amongst my boxes. So if you would like these digitals, at least 1 page of them, I think, there is a link below to where they are on my site where I write. And I'm going to put them in the journal. I'm going to use some of the pages there you see to the right as journal cards. So that's just one I'm giving you an example of how I'm going to do it. I had to trim it a little bit to fit into a full page pocket. You saw the one that I did that had a divot out of it. So that's going to go in there. You'll see that later when I do a flip through at the end of the video. So that's a decorative piece of paper that was in my stash. I glued it onto a book page, and I'm choosing one of these digitals to put on the front. I use my paper trimmer, and I trim what I want off. And later on, I cut them all apart, but you don't have to watch that. And my hand is not real steady by itself with a scissor, so that's why I chose just to make ovals as opposed to, what I did do. Now, I like rounded corners. It's one of those things that just, it feels finished. I don't know, is that something you do? Do you round the corners? If you do, leave a comment below. I would love to know. And I'm rounding the corners on the journal card, and eventually I'll put on a cream-colored piece of paper on the back. I don't think I have it here in the video, but you can imagine writing on the back, writing on the front on that little digital. Glue it on to the page. Add the thankful, which is a die cut. Yeah, again, it was in my stash. So the second thing I learned through this, making this altered book, is use up what you already have. The first was plan ahead. The second was use up what you have. And the third thing that I learned in this whole project, which again, it didn't take too long, was to keep on going. Because at first I was getting discouraged. Even though I had torn out so many pages, there was still a lot to do. And yes, I have so many bits and pieces surrounding, and I decided not to put that there. I got a little discouraged a little bit through, and I thought, nope, I'm just gonna keep going, keep decorating, use up the washi tape, use up the papers, just keep on going. And if I didn't like the way the page looked, well, I just kept on going. That's a big part of this type of junk journaling, of this art of making things that we already have into new things. Keep going until you like it, because eventually you will. So these digitals are from the amplified version of Philippians, and I'll put the link below to the scripture. And so what I had done, I think it was more than a year ago, was create these digitals. And so a big part of being thankful is looking at what is positive. That's why my site and all my social media, it's called Positive Thanks Living. And I feel this scripture verse from Philippians really is the poster for this concept of living with optimism and gratitude. So what's a gratitude journal without looking at all the things that are good and right and honorable and pure and all the other parts of it? So that's what I'm doing. I've begun by making the pages somewhat decorated with washi and all these images that I've had around, and I'm completing them with this set of digitals that is sort of it echoes everything all the way through. These are die cuts that I had in my stash from another project a year ago, and some were left. I thought, well, they're going to go in this book. And what was just a old Reader's Digest condensed book sitting on a shelf in my parents-in-law's home for decades, and I'm not exaggerating, has now become something that will be useful. I'm going to use it over the next 2 months, when we gather with different people. We have a few things planned, both for the Canadian Thanksgiving and gatherings for couples, and I'm going to take it with me and have everybody use the places, the journal cards, the tags that are tucked in the pockets to write down things they're thankful for. So it'll become both a personal journal my own of what I'm thankful for, and also incorporate things from others, what they're thankful for. I'll show you the completed book with everybody's writings. Obviously, I won't have you read the writings, but I'll show you the end product in December after the 2 different Thanksgivings. That's what we as a family choose to focus on in October and November, is being thankful for everything in our life, things that are tangible and the intangible things also. How do you handle Thanksgiving? Is that something that is more than just a weekend in November, or if you're Canadian, a weekend in October? Do you carry it through? Have you noticed a change in your life when you're more grateful? I have, without a doubt. I keep a journal. Every morning I write down at least 5 things that I'm thankful for. And if it's a rough day, sometimes I write down I'm thankful for that hot cup of coffee that's in my hand. Small things are important to be thankful for also. But what I've noticed is when I do that daily practice, and it doesn't take long, my life, it's a lot easier to handle the rough stuff. So here we are. I'm going to do a flip through of the book, of what I've put in so far. That there is something from another one I did. Yeah, there's the completed journal card that is tucked between 2 pages, 2 full pages, and those are the little tucks. I have more decorating to do, and a lot of pages that I tore out that I'm going to make into journal cards for other books. But you can see how something can... I'm missing something to tuck in there, so there's one. So as you can see, you can make many pockets out of an altered book and make what is old new and relevant again. So thank you for joining me here. Next week I'm going to go through different ways to use up those pages that I've torn out. I invite you to like and subscribe. If you like this video, it really helps. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. I'm going to add to the cover, add some lace, add something else, not sure what yet. And you'll see it over the next couple months. Take care. It's Lori at Positive Thanks Living. Bye for now.